Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Decades with Joe E. Kramer. Too true to believe, too true to be true. You be the judge.
You turn the time circuits on. Say, kids, what time is it?
It's 7 o'clock at WWRR Scranton Wilkes-Barre.
Are you telling me you built a time machine?
This is the sound of the 80s generation. Decades with Joe E. Kramer starts now. On 105 The River.
All right, so we have a special edition of Decades again tonight. Mr. Shadow Steel is with us. Are you there?
Good to see you.
You see, now you're hiding. He's caused trouble the whole week.
I didn't cause any trouble. We'll explain.
He's caused trouble the whole entire week on Facebook.
That's my middle name.
And we're going to talk about those grand memories from Rocky Glen Park coming up.
30 years later.
30 years from its closing, and he was there for the opening.
Did a live remote from there.
Shalimar, Decades.
I caught you smiling. I know I've seen you here before. How come you're hiding? Hey, don't you wanna hit the floor? The place is crowded, or maybe you don't like the beat. I got a 2-track playing in my head, so let me take you somewhere else instead. Dancing in the sheets. Grab your coat and wave goodbye to your friends. I wanna take you where the night never ends. I feel the need to sweep you off of your feet. You and me, we should be dancing in the sheets. Dancing in the sheets. We feel the rhythm, we got the music on our side. If we go with them, I bet we'll have a wonderful ride. Your hands are cold, so maybe we can make some heat. Love is always one on a chance, so wrap around me and baby let's dance. Dancing in the sheets. Grab your coat and wave goodbye to your friend. I wanna take you where the night never ends. I feel the need to sweep you off of your feet. You and me, we should be dancing in the sheets. Dancing in the sheets. Grab your coat and wave goodbye to your friends. I wanna take you where the night never ends. I feel the need to sweep you off of your feet. You and me, we should be dancing in the sheets. Dancing in the sheets. Dancing in the sheets. Dancing in the sheets.
Where it's still cool to roll those jeans. This is Decades with Joe E. Kramer.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life. jump in the shower and the blood starts pumping. Out on the streets, the traffic starts jumping. With folks like me on the job from 9 to 5. Working 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. Barely getting by. It's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5 for service and devotion. You would think that I would deserve a fair promotion. Want to move ahead, but the boss won't seem to let me. I swear sometimes that man is out to get me. They let you dream just to watch him shatter. You're just a step on the boss man's ladder, but you got dreams he'll never take away. In the same boat with a lot of your friends, waiting for the day your ship will come in and the tide's gonna turn and it's all gonna roll your way. Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living. Barely getting by, it's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and you never get the credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5, yeah, they got you where they want you. There's a better life, and you think about it, don't you? It's a rich man's game, no matter what they call it. And you spend your life putting money in his wallet. 9 to 5, oh, what a way to make a living. Barely getting by, it's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5, yeah, they got you where they want you. There's a better life, and you dream about it, don't you? It's a rich man's game, no matter what they call it. And you spend your life putting money in his wallet. 9 to 5,
Total Reach Radio. This is Decades. And Dolly Parton, 1980.
80.
Number one song
Yeah, right. Yeah.
in the United States.
Yeah. For a change, we're taking the domestic playlist.
It's not
Hey,
one
good
of those
to see you, Joe Kramer.
number one songs out of Scandinavia for 2 weeks.
Scandinavia counts, too.
As always, it's always wonderful to have Mr. Steele here with us.
Yeah, and good to see you. Thanks for the invitation, Joe, on a very auspicious occasion of the 30th anniversary of Rocky Glen closing.
You know, I was thinking we were, I don't know, it was my mother's birthday, and we were talking about Rocky Glen, and every summer I remember he wasn't my uncle, but we always called him uncle because he was my father's best friend, would pick myself up, his nephew would come in, and my sister, and we'd go up to Rocky Glen.
Yeah.
And then we did it every summer through
I know.
the 1980s.
I would walk there because it's only a couple of miles from where I lived in Duryea, about 3 miles on the railroad track, which ran along there, the old Erie Railroad. And, you know, when I put this on, there's this great website, which you're a part of, the Rocky Glen Park Memories, and Andrew Zeke Zahorsky.
Which you're probably going to be
Jason.
banned from.
Well, you know, these guys asked me to mention their tour, and
Right.
there's really nothing wrong with it. They've been doing it forever. And I said, okay, out of respect for everybody, then I won't mention this tour. They've been doing it forever on the grounds of that. And then, you know, we get a couple of people that butt in with, like...
It is,
you know,
I mean, yes, it is private property.
I understand that.
But, I mean,
Yeah, I mean-
if you're going, it's, how about 50 acres?
More than that.
500 acres.
500 acres. About
Whatever.
550 acres. and
Whatever.
It's been dormant since 1987, dormant for 30 years. It's not like you're encroaching on a missile base. You're not going to Area 51.
I
mean,
say.
you know, but you know, and I said Andrew Zahorsky, who does a great job, Jason, these folks with this Rocky Glen Park Memory site. I've been a member since like the second day it was on, and you know, I try and post because I have access to the old Scrantonian microfilm files. That was at the same time the Scranton Times was around. I post, you know, old ads and photos and things from the park, and these guys do a great job in policing this site all the time. And it's got so many members of which you're a part of.
You
Joe.
know what I was looking for this week was the Rocky Glen commercials.
Yes,
You could always find
yeah.
them on YouTube
You
or
could, yeah.
something. There's a lot for Rocky Point, which is out in Ohio.
Oh, yeah, Rocky Point.
But nothing for Rocky
Yeah,
Glen.
and again, those were done on film at the time. They had no videotape to, you know, to transcribe them in those days.
You
It
think
was done
somebody
like
would have them, though?
Well,
have the TV commercial. And
if I
put
don't
it
have
on.
them, nobody has. I'd
If
be
you
the
don't-
one to have them.
We're going to talk about
That's
your
a funny
collection.
thing. I'd be the one to have them.
But it's funny when you look at Rocky Glen. I'm just reading this here, but it was purchased for $15.
Yes.
at a tax sale in
1886, I think.
1886.
Yeah, 1886 by Arthur Frothingham, who was one of the proponents of the Laurel Line Railroad. That was the interurban between Wilkes-Barre and Scranton, the Laurel Line, the Wyoming and Lackawanna Valley, which was designed, Joe, to bring patrons to the park. That's what that railroad was all about in the days before the automobile.
I have the first DVD. I didn't get the second DVD. Somehow I missed it.
Yes, of course. I'm on the second DVD, the one you don't have.
Why don't you bring a copy for me?
I'll bring a copy the next time I come here. I will.
Anyway, but I think one of the funny, and I was watching it yesterday, and my daughter was sitting there watching it with me, and I told this story to her a long time ago. She didn't believe me, but then of course it was on there saying that there was something with the railroad that in order to protect your property, it had to be a cemetery.
That's correct.
And they buried bodies at Rocky Glen.
That's correct.
So they
could go through.
So what happened to those bodies? Are they still there?
They're still there. Some were
haunted.
See, now you have to exhume everything.
Right.
If you're building a railroad or a watershed like a reservoir, you have to exhume everything because you can't have any type of matter, like human matter in there to decay. But back in those days, you actually planted some bodies, which gave you insurance. Now, these are dead bodies.
What happened to Uncle Wilbur?
Uncle Wilbur's out near the Ferris wheel.
So are they still there?
Sure, they're still there.
I mean, are they marked?
No,
or
they're just what they call Pauper's Field, Pauper's Graves, and they're along the right of way somewhere. And Uncle Timmy is still down there somewhere. But Joe, as you well know, it's a whole different era 100 years ago, and you didn't have the environmental restrictions now. You dump a teaspoonful of motor oil on the ground and you have excavators digging the whole field up. It's a whole different ball game now in 2017.
And that's why I say, even when I was growing up in the 80s, you were...
Sure. I was growing up in the 70s.
You're a little bit earlier than me.
Yes, I was from like 70 to 77. I was in the later years.
I remember all the parks, and we used to go to Rocky Glen, of course. Closer, you had Hanson's.
Angela.
You had Angela Park up in
Hazleton. Correct.
Before my time to Sansui, that closed in the 70s.
That closed in 71. I was Sansui a lot on the Sansui Parkway, and you had Nayog.
Park,
that's
which
correct. You're right.
But there were so many parks around here.
And again, and this is a very important point, Joe, and you can appreciate this. And this is something that I mean, not to be a smart aleck about this. If Rocky Glen could have survived 10 more years into the late 90s, it would probably still be here today.
Because Knoebel basically, they...
Precisely. And people say, I agree with you. I said, you should agree with me, because here's the deal, Joe. Back when Rocky Glen was in its demise from 83 to 87 when it closed, everybody wanted the great adventures, and they wanted
it was.
And they wanted a $10 million roller coaster. The whole park didn't cost $1 million, but they, for Rocky Glen. But they wanted $10 million roller coasters and all these speed rides. You couldn't compete with a Great Adventure or a Busch family theme park. But if they could have stayed 10 more years into, say, 1998 or 1999, they would still be here today as a knockoff of a Knoebels,
Joe. Rocky Glen was almost like a theme park in its early days. Because, and we'll talk about this coming up.
Yes.
It was when I remember, it was Ghost Town in the Glen,
correct.
too. And I remember some of those shows, and we'll talk about that coming up. We can't do a show without some music.
Oh, it's a great record, man. Four Top.
Go ahead, send it out. Send it out.
What a record, man, from '89, written by Phil Collins. On Decades with Joe Kramer.
Go Loco in Acapulco. This is Decades. Total Reach Radio. More with Shadow Steel coming up.
Yes,
Decades with Joe E. Kramer. And another lost track from the 80s.
Go ahead, send it out.
I feel like I'm at the Academy Awards. Pop goes to movies. That was a great record, man.
That is still
Miko.
still alive, Miko.
That's it. Yeah, we argued about that.
I've looked everywhere. The guy's alive. He's not dead.
All right, I'll yield to that.
He's definitely alive.
Somebody told me he was dead.
No, he's definitely alive.
I could still probably get him on if he was dead, but he'd just be a shorter interview.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter, Kramer.
We were talking about Rocky Glen tonight, and I was going to talk about the ghost town in the Glen, which became in the 70s.
Correct.
And it had to be into the 80s, too, because I remember going to see the shows, and we were talking, you walked in, the spider was there.
Yep.
Which everybody got sick on.
Oh, remember that? The guy with the hose? Hosing out the seats?
All the time.
Oh, my gosh.
After
I know.
almost
That was outrageous.
Somebody was always sick
around
on
the
it.
roundup where you stood in that cage, remember?
Yeah.
And then you tossed your guts all over the...
I went on a spider once.
Oh, my God. I could never go
I
on
don't mind
something
things
like
that go up and down, but
See, I
when
don't either.
the cart
but
starts spinning.
But I know.
It was just.
I'm a roller coaster guy, and the
So am
Jet was the great roller coaster there.
and they
Rogers
had
Jet.
the $1 Million roller coaster.
That was way back, yes, in the 50s, and then
Now,
ran along the Laura line.
And what was it called when I was there?
It was
Like in
called the Jet.
The Jet.
Yes,
But
the
that
Jet.
that's
Mhm.
what- okay.
The big wooden one.
And the
Yep.
mouse trap.
which was the roller coaster on the steel pipe.
Yeah,
That's
that was
correct.
kind of like the Jetstar was.
Oh,
in,
that was like the
Knoebels.
high-tech one.
Yeah, that was new,
That was
'cause
all steel tubing.
It
Yeah.
was all, and it would jerk you back and
Yep.
forth and around. You look like you're going
Yep.
over the edge, and
then the fun house, which everybody used to urinate
Right.
in, and you used to go in, and it used to smell like urine. And everybody
old
says, "Don't
days.
touch the walls in there, Rusty." I said, "Why not?" They said, "Because everybody urinates in here." And sure enough, it does. It
And
smelled just like
see,
that.
the good old days.
That was the good old days. You can't get a decent fun house full of urine off the ground
yeah,
anymore.
I mean, you don't
I
get
mean
those.
that.
Everything's too clean nowadays.
It is. It's all sanitary.
And the Ferris wheel, of course, was right there.
Right at the jet.
And I said, walk in. I remember walking down.
Down the road
Sure.
to the lake?
Yeah, it must have.
Yes.
To me, I remember a hill.
Remember the Red Barn Theater? The Red
Barn
right.
Theater,
That's
yeah,
where
that-
Bon Jovi,
And
when he wasn't even known.
Back in the early 80s.
That's correct. That's where
right?
he performed at the Red Barn Theater.
And I remember I went to see Night Ranger there.
Right.
I went to see Sly Fox. There's
Sly Fox?
Sly Fox did a free
The Let's
concert.
Go All the Way
Sly Fox did a
Are
free
you kidding
concert,
me?
and I remember I got free tickets. They gave the tickets. A lot of their concerts were free.
What do you do? One song and like
no, they
18
did.
times?
Cinch was opening for them.
Oh, get out
So,
Jimmy Harnan. And
I think this was like
Get
around
out.
85.
This is great memory.
This was in 84, 85. It was 85, I guess, because Let's Go All the Way was a hit. But
Yes.
Where Are You Now was still just got signed to Columbia Records.
Right. Remember after it was on what was the
WTG.
girl? Yeah, but before there was on
Mickey?
Yeah, Mickey
Mickey
Records. I
Records.
couldn't think of it. Mickey Records.
And it was, I remember more people, what I remember is it should have been switched. Sly Fox should have opened for Cinch because I remember
Absolutely.
everybody there was walking around with this Get the Feeling shirts and the Cinch shirts and everything
Where are
else.
you now?
And
Yeah.
more people were there to see Cinch.
I know. Yeah.
The place I stayed for, and of course, Let's Go All the Way was like at the end of their 35-minute set. Mm-hmm. And so
No, we joke about that, Joe, but that was one of the longest running, probably 45 RPM singles in history in this area. Ran for like 5 years on 3 different labels. You
and
know
then
that.
it came through 89 again.
That's-
It was
yeah,
over
right,
and over.
exactly.
But it was Night Ranger. I saw.
Did you see
Quiet
Bon
Riot. I
Jovi?
saw Quiet. I didn't see Bon
Did you know
Jovi.
who that was?
Yeah,
'cause it was,
because 7800 Fahrenheit and
oh yeah,
the one before.
That's right, 700 Fahrenheit.
They were out before.
That's right, before.
so he
his
was
first
known.
one.
I mean, Runaway was out. She Don't Know Me.
He
all
was
those
still
songs.
living in Sayreville, New Jersey at the
And
time. He just
people-
drove out here. That's right.
People knew who he was. I mean,
Yes.
he was, but he
You're
wasn't
right.
as big as he was when it came to the Armory. But I remember Quiet Riot was there in '83,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw Quiet Riot. I saw Night Ranger, and I saw Cinch there with Sly Fox.
Cinch.
And I
Yeah.
think the Beach Boys were there, but that was in a. See, I remember
That
the
was
Beach
lovely,
Boys. I remember
80s.
the Beach Boys coming out to Memorial Stadium in Scranton. I remember that. 'cause
And I
went to
wonder
that
which
show.
configuration that was that.
Yeah, I don't
Mike
know.
loves Beach Boys, the original Beach Boys,
I went to
Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys. Another one of those dysfunctional
I
groups.
saw them. I saw the John Stamos Beach
Oh,
Boys.
the John Stamos ones. Okay, that was later. That was like near the end of the run. That must have been like 87.
It was like 86.
So I was
87,
going to say,
something
that's
around
the
there,
end
yeah.
of the run, the John Stamos beat.
I remember walking down
Beach
that
Boys.
hill, and you walked in, and there was the Wild West.
Correct.
And those shows were like,
Guys falling off of roofs into wagons.
and they did different
were,
shows every
yeah.
time. You stayed in that park all day,
That's right.
and you saw different.
They said the next show will be at 1 o'clock, and then you went on the paddle boats, which was right on Rocky
Right.
Glen Pond, right there, because that was the bathhouse,
Right.
And you were right at the water, right at the actual pond. They called
See, I
it Rocky
stayed on
Glen
the ride. I
Pond.
didn't go in the park, and then the water a lot.
No, I didn't either.
I don't think I ever went on the paddle
I
boats when
can't
I was there.
swim, so I stayed away from the water. No, I can't. I stayed away from the water.
course.
No, I can't. I can't swim. I could never
Fall
swim.
off one of those paddle boats. That's the end.
The water's only up to my knees if I stood up, but I'd probably find a way to drown in it, so I stayed away from the water.
But I just remember Rocky Glen was just a place you went, and I haven't been there. I shouldn't say. I was there the last year it was open, and I was supposed to go up there in like 1990 with one of my friends. I was a senior in high school because the place was still there. I mean, everything
Correct.
was still there.
Till they started burning it
till
down.
they started burning
That's
it down.
Right. You're right. It was all there.
And the roller coaster's like buried there, isn't it?
They took a lot of the wood and just buried it in the pit. That's correct. When they knocked the jet down. I sneaked over the fence back in the 80s, right after it closed. So this must have been 88. And they didn't
You
even
jumped
have,
the fence?
Yeah, I jumped the fence down by the river. And I have like an entire VHS camcorder cassette of everything. I was up on the platform. I'm up on the platform for the sky ride. I went into the Alpine Chalet, the Swiss Chalet.
Right.
I have probably the only existing video. Bob Savakinas, who put together the videos, does a great job. I remember that my famous line in the second DVD, which you did not see, I said, they asked me, and this was great. He asked me in the DVD, what was so special about Rocky Glen? And I said, well, life is 99% being in the right place at the right time. and Rocky Glen was the right place at the right time.
And I had
that's kind of sums it up.
Angelo
Joe.
Park was too far.
That was like my folks took me there like twice. That was all the way to Hazelton.
We didn't go to Hazelton.
No, we didn't
so
either.
It was either Hanson's or Rocky Glen.
Yeah, Hanson's, and we went to Nayog, of course, me being from Old Forge, so we were more like in the Lackawanna County area. So, yeah, but we went to Angelo Park like once a year. That was a trek.
There is a
Because
video.
81 wasn't even built at that time. It was 309.
Right.
You had to go through 309,
And there is a video online of, it was around 1990, that they're walking through the park. And showing the different stuff.
Is there? Yeah.
Yeah, there's
I know
one that they're showing all the different things that are in the park. I mean, it was closed already for 3 years.
Right.
And then there's another one the day before the auction.
Right, and the auction was August 24th, 1988, because I couldn't make it. I was working at the NBC Television Network in New York, living in Princeton, New Jersey. I remember coaching my father to go over and get 3 things that I wanted at that auction.
We're going to talk about that
that's
next.
right. That's a whole other segment.
We're going to talk about Mr. Steele's Rocky Glen collection that he has at his house. He has just about there's nothing left there because it's all in his garage. He bought everything. So we got more coming.
Stay away from my garage, Kramer.
This is Decades on Total Reach Radio 105 The River. Hang on.
You can start up the generator now. Prepare for launching.
Enough said.
Feel the vibration.
Now, back to Decades with Joe E. Kramer on 105 The River.
I'm picking up my baby tonight. Though daddy's making trouble, it'll be alright. I'm working hard. I don't know why. I'm like a working class dog and I just get by. Tonight I'm crawling out from in it. Oh, we're living on the brink, second by minute by minute. Love is alright tonight. We're gonna be alright. Love is alright. Love is alright tonight. Everyone's saying the sky's gonna fall. Don't know where it's gonna stop, if it stops at all. I know the world's going crazy, alright. I hope it holds together for one more night. Tonight I'm crawling out from it. No, we're living on the brink, second by minute. Love is alright tonight. And baby, we're gonna be alright. Love is alright. Love is alright tonight. Don't worry, Daddy, I'll have a home at a respectable hour. Go to sleep, Daddy, you won't think about tonight. With the night comes a feeling that I've got this incredible power. Hold another, Daddy, she was feeling it tonight. Alright, it's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. Love is alright tonight. And baby, we're gonna be alright. Love is alright. Love is alright tonight.
Total Reach Radio. This is Decades. Rick Springfield, 1981. Love is all right. It's Joey Kramer and Shadow Steel is here. We're still smelling
We're still smelling the urine from the
the urine
funhouse.
from the funhouse.
Ah, your olfactory sense, your sense of smell. It's like, what do you remember most about the funhouse? Well, the urine smell.
I remember the smell of it, but I I do remember. Now that I remember it.
What did I tell you? You're laughing, but as soon as you mentioned the fun house, I think of urine.
The roller the thing I remember most.
He spent my people thinking these two guys talking about urine in this decades.
The thing I remember most about Rocky Glen was the roller coaster was. It wasn't that it was like a 100-foot drop. It was no big deal.
Oh, it wasn't even.
But it
was like 50 feet.
You weren't sure if you were going to make it all the way through because it creaked and it
Oh,
rattled.
man,
and
it went around that curve, and you're praying you're praying that it stayed on the rails.
That and the one at Hanson's, I remember that. I was on the once.
Oh, that was
a
big one.
But
that was fast.
The one that you prayed the whole time you weren't going to die.
You better believe it did.
Because it crackled and it. You'd be going around a turn and you thought you were going to end up...
I said a rosary on the mousetrap. Let me tell you, on those pipes.
Oh, that was...
bolts are coming off of half of them. It's like, oh, my gosh.
And my father just called up my cell phone.
Yes,
was talking about the
tumble. You know, what he mentioned, too, I vaguely remember. Tell them what he said about the caterpillar.
Oh, he said somebody died on it.
And because of
a snake bite.
And I believe that.
Because you were saying there was rattlesnakes
Anytime someone takes a tour through the park, they post a photo online, and they always say, here's a common guest of Rocky Glen.
Well,
because the area is rattlesnake infested. So I believe that somebody probably could have died.
You know what attracts it? The smell of urine. That's probably what did it.
Don't know about that. It certainly didn't attract me. I couldn't touch any walls in there. They said, don't touch anything.
You smell the urine, and you get the rattlesnakes. But a lot of people died there. There was like 37 deaths.
Yeah, a lot on the roller coaster.
I'm assuming a lot of it was early on.
Yes, it was.
I mean,
no OSHA, no safety, no nothing.
And no seatbelts,
no
nothing.
Seatbelts, no inspections, Joe.
Watching the old video of Rocky Glen on YouTube, and there's a lot of people posted a lot of video there, and they were going around kids. I mean, they were probably 7, 8 years old on the, things like you sit like in a little rocket and you spin around.
You're right.
They're not buckled in or
Look
anything.
at the Ferris wheel. You're on the Ferris wheel 100 feet up.
The bar.
Yeah, just the bar, right? You could slide under the bar if you were a little kid. It was so dangerous back then. It's like not even funny. That's how
It's a good ratio there. You figure how many people came in and only 37 people died.
I know. Out of probably the 5 million people, that's a good thing.
And insurance, I'm sure, had a lot to, because that's what closed Hanson's.
Correct,
insurance.
and that's what closed them.
I mean, the insurance on a amusement park has to be through the roof.
Because anybody that, if you get a cut on the cotton candy stand, the windowsill, you're suing for $12 million. I mean, it's the insurance, Joe. That's exactly what closed a lot of these parks, insurance.
Now, of course, I guess 88, it closed in 87.
Correct.
And they were supposed to open the next.
Correct.
I don't remember them ever really. When in 87, when I remember it closed, that was basically everybody knew it was done.
Yeah, Zeke from the Rocky Glen Park Memories Facebook page, he had an interesting quote about that, too. He was exactly right. He said that they were supposed to reopen the next year, and that never really came to fruition, and they wanted to get a good deal with Norton Auctions of Michigan to come in. So I think they said they were going to reopen, and then they had it all destined because they got one of the latest dates, August 24th, 1988, for the auction over there.
When you went there, you just bought everything.
No, actually,
there was nothing. Nothing.
I coached my father, John. He became as much an expert of what to look for. Here's what I wanted. I wanted a carousel horse along myself and the other 10,000 people there. Well, that never happened because they sold the whole carousel and all the horses in mass, one piece. And
one of them isn't Knoebels or wasn't Knoebels.
Yeah,
or
I know, and I have to check that because
I'm not sure, but I know.
I think the bumper cars went to Hialeah, Florida. There's a park in Hialeah, Florida. The bumper cars, the Dodgems went there. The other thing I wanted was, of course, I got the grandma for a little over $10,000.
The grandma's like the one.
The grandma is the fortune
teller. It's like the one. First thing I thought of is Big.
In Big,
yeah,
correct.
The same exact one.
Exactly right.
Did you have that restored? Because
I had that fully restored by Weller Woodworking in Hamlin when they were in business back in '89, and it cost $10,000 to restore it. And they had to do museum.
And how much did you pay for that?
$10,290.
No, I mean, how much did you actually pay for the
restoration?
No, when you bought it.
$10,200.
$10,000. Okay.
$10,296. I looked it up.
Pocket change.
Back then it was.
Yeah.
I was working in New York City. It was pocket change. Now it's it was like $2,000.
Shadow Steel's loaded.
And Kramer. And what I wanted, if you remember this, it looked like a big glass aquarium. There was a bulldozer inside, and it pushed lentils, those little peas, those little beans.
Is that like the one they have there? They push the quarters.
Kind of, but this pushed beans into a chute, and then the chute weighed how much you pushed in and you got free games on that. You know what it was called? Williams made it, and it was called Construction Site. Construction Site. And that was gone. See, here was the deal. Marvin Roth from Roth Novelty down on Pennsylvania Avenue, he had something to do with the park in 86 and 87. So, and I'm not saying this to for any other reason than to say that those guys from Roth Novelty, they went through the park and they kind of picked it clean on what they,
like the early birds,
right. See, all the good stuff was kind of gone by the time of the auction. Like, I really can't put a roller coaster in my backyard.
What was the third thing you bought? Because you said you got the
I got the sign, which is featured on the second DVD from the roller coaster, which was hand painted back in 1961 in red paint, and it has "Do not stand up in seats." And that was right on the dock where the guy that ran the roller coaster pulled the big lever, the brake. Right. It was right there. It says, "Do not stand up in seats." And that was $4,800 for that.
And I guess you had that. You had
I got trays. And my father also they threw in a pair of salt and pepper shakers that say Ghost Town Park. Now, it went from Ghost Town in the Glen to Ghost Town Park. That's correct. So you got to watch the vernacular because things are worth more. So he got salt and pepper shakers thrown in that were never used as
now, when it was closed, it went back to being called Rocky Glen.
Correct.
For those last 2 years, it was called Rocky Glen again.
Absolutely correct. It went back to the original name. You're absolutely correct.
They did, but I remember they kept on changing names.
Well, when
it went from Ghost Town in the Glen to Ghost Town Park, back to Rocky Glen. And even for a while, it was Rocky Glen with 2 N's.
Correct.
At one point.
That's right.
And then they got it to...
Because I see that, and when people put that down, I think they know what they're talking about. It went to 2 Glens and Glenn. That's absolutely correct. So it has a long, steeped history. And if when they built the Western town, Joe, I think you wanted to call it something else to differentiate you from the regular park. So I think what they did was really good. And like I said, they could have survived 10, 11, 12 more years.
I mean, I remember all those Westerns because you didn't get those at the other parks.
No, you didn't.
Angela Park wasn't really big.
No.
It was a small thing. And, Hanson's was by the lake.
Yeah, I was never thrilled about Angela. All I did was go on the train ride, which was nice. Went over a couple of creeks and bridges. That was pretty cool, the train ride. But it didn't have anything. You're right. Rocky Glen was a theme park before the theme park. You're right.
That was the cool place that you wanted to.
And it was halfway between Wilkes-Barre and Scranton. That was also a selling point.
It still seems so far away when I was young.
I know.
That long drive to get to Rocky Glen.
My folks took me to Angela Park. I think we had to stop a couple times. It seems like, now you drive from here to Florida in one day, but back in those days, we had to stop twice to go to Hazleton.
All right, we're going to talk more about Rocky Glen.
Hey, good record.
Coming up, you want to send it out to somebody?
Everybody left partying in Nanaco.
Lost in your eyes. It's decades.
I get lost in your eyes, and I feel my spirits rise and soar like the wind. Is it love that I am in? I get weak in a glass.
It's Joe E. Kramer with Decades.
Rolling down Imperial Highway, the big nasty red at my side. Santa Ana winds blowing hot from the north. We were born to ride. Roll down the window, put down the top, crank up the Beach Boys, baby. Don't let the music stop. We gonna ride it till we just can't ride it no more. From the side bay to the valley, from the west side to the east side, everybody very happy, 'cause the sun is shining all the time. It's like another perfect day. I love LA. We love it. I love LA. We love it. We love it. Look at that mountain. Look at those trees. Look at that bum over there, man. He's down on his knees. Look at these women. Ain't nothing like them nowhere. Century Boulevard. We love it. Century Boulevard. We love it. Santa Monica Boulevard. We love it. Sixth Street. We love it. We love it. We love LA. I love LA. We love it. I love LA. We love it. I love LA. We love it.
Total Reach Radio. It is Decades. We're having a chat here.
Randy Newman didn't feel like singing anymore.
Yeah.
Great record, man. I love L.A.
It is, and you didn't know exactly what it was.
Well, the last time I heard it, I played it.
So now it's been played twice in the last
Twice in the
35
last
years.
35 years.
But he's a big composer. He did all the music for Toy Story and all
Yeah,
that.
gosh, Randy Newman, yeah.
So
Plus, he had
anyway.
this big record in 77, remember? Short People.
Short People.
Yeah.
Short. Yeah, I do
People
remember
have
that.
nobody. Yeah.
Not as big as I Love L.A.
Not as big.
That was a big MTV song.
Again, another record in Kramer's collection that had a toe tag on it. He had to break the string on the
It's
toe
not
tag.
as stiff until I say it's as
That's
stiff.
for sure.
No doubt about it. We're talking about Rocky Glen tonight, and I was saying about the 1990 on YouTube. All the
Yeah, you
buildings.
showed
Did
me,
all
you're
the
right.
buildings burn down?
They knocked them down. The wooden ones they burned down. There was fire after fire over there. And again, if you want to see a great history, remember Rocky Glen Park Memories is the Facebook site. That is the definitive
They have all
site.
the old pictures of everything
new.
on
And
there.
I post on there at least once every 2 weeks. I get some old newspaper clippings and things like that.
And it's amazing the amount of things that people have.
Well, they had
Yeah,
they had a
collections
lot
of
of
stuff.
promotional
tickets
stuff,
and
Joe.
stuff. Who would have
Yeah.
thought of keeping a Rocky Glen ticket back in the 80s?
I have coins. I have the tokens
Except
from
for
there,
you.
and well, I was a big time collector. You know, I have baseball stadium seats from the Polo Grounds and from Wrigley Field, and from Ebbets Field, the Brooklyn Dodgers. I got a lot of weird stuff.
I stole a rental skate from Roller King.
That's probably worth something because that's been out of business
Yeah,
for the longest
they
time.
tore that down about 5 or 6 years ago.
I remember they tore that
and
down.
I took pictures and I saw the roller skate. I took the roller skate and I should.
I need to take two.
I should have. You know, it was
why
like
do you
I thought
take two?
I was.
When you're
afraid,
going to steal
Well, I
big.
was afraid
You're
I was
steal
going to
both of
be.
them.
I afraid I was going to be like on America's Most Wanted. And there was a sign there that said "Skate at your own risk." I should have taken that.
That would have been great.
I didn't.
Skate at your own risk.
It had all the rules of the skating thing because I worked there for a couple of years.
Why didn't you take it?
And I don't know. I just didn't. I just took the skate and
You
ran.
go in a crowbar at night. You take everything.
My wife and I were like on a heist. I got the skate. Rune, I jumped in the car. Hurry, run, go.
Jennifer will be an accessory after the fact on that deal.
But
Joe
like
and
it's-
Jennifer.
They do walking tours now, which it's private property. We got to stress that.
Yes, we know that.
And
Yep.
you go
That's
up
right.
there, and I mean, you could walk. You walk. Not that you could, but if you wanted to, walk on the ground.
See, Kramer, I'm glad you're handling the legalities
If you
of this because I
wanted to.
promised I promised Zeke that I wouldn't do this,
There's
and I
not-
didn't. So you're
and,
very
there's,
good.
There's not snipers up there
No,
telling people to get
No.
out. And I mean, it's a nice. It's like a nature walk. I mean,
It
'cause
is.
Nature's taken
It
over.
is.
This
well,
time
you
of
can't
year,
walk anywhere. I mean, every piece of property in the
Right,
world
exactly.
belongs to somebody. I
So,
mean, if you
it's-
want to get technical.
But,
But-
Elmer Fudd isn't up there with the shotgun knocking
Yes.
people off his thing.
Yes.
But there's now this time of year the leaves fall off. You can see a lot more because
Yes.
there's parts of the rails from the roller coaster
Right.
there. There's foundations.
And then you can walk along the Laurel Line, which cuts the lake in half. It's actually two lakes. There's a little inlet.
Right.
People don't know that. That's where the little bridge they took over from the Laurel Line is there. It's a beautiful, idyllic, pristine place. It really
If
is.
you saw the pictures on the Rocky Glen Memories, I thought it was fantastic. Somebody had
Big time.
pictures of themselves
Yes.
morphed behind what it
Yes.
looks like now.
That was great. Do you see the way they superimposed that?
Right,
was
that
great.
was great.
Where the roller coaster was at the rock wall
Right.
where the dam is and
And
things
you,
like that.
you know exactly where.
Great idea. That was a great idea,
That was,
Rocky Glen
I'm not
Memories.
sure who posted that. I would have said who it was, but
Yeah.
it was incredible.
I know,
Like,
incredible stuff.
but I mean, there's some foundation stuff. There's not a whole lot left there.
No.
Now, I saw some people posted underwater pictures.
That was cool.
And you go underwater and the boat dock is
Yeah,
there and
that
all
was
that
cool.
stuff.
The boat
So,
dock for the paddle boats.
Probably
and,
some dead bodies.
Oh, I'm sure there's a few under there.
Uncle Ralph probably.
Uncle Timmy is still from the Laurel Line. He crawled over. Joe, thanks for having me down again. And thanks
Always
to
a
Rocky
pleasure.
Glen,
Next time
Park.
we're going to have to
Yeah.
do 2 hours.
Okay, well, that's a promise. And say hi to Jennifer for
I
me.
will. Absolutely.
And thanks again for having me down, Joe.
Maybe
Always a pleasure to be on.
We'll
Thank you.
shoot towards like Thanksgiving weekend.
That's
or something.
fine. We'll do 2 hours
And we'll do
next
2
time.
hours instead
We'll
of.
definitely kill the audience. Totally dead next time. Thank you, Joe.
Always great. We have Hairspray at 8 coming up next in just a few minutes. This is Decades on Total Reach Radio 105 The River. Hang on.
It's 8 o'clock at WWRR Scranton Wilkes-Barre.
This is Ted Poley of Danger Danger.
This is Lorraine Lewis for the band Femme Fatale.
Hey, this is Kelly Kagi from Night Ranger.
And I am on Decades with Joey Kramer.
You're listening to Joe E. Kramer, Decades.
And you're rocking Decades with my buddy Joey Kramer.
This is Hairspray at 8 on Decades.
All right, here we go. A little late we're in because we ran a little late last hour talking about all those great memories of Rocky Glen in Moosic, Pennsylvania. Thanks, Shadow Steel, as always, for stopping by. I'll do it again Thanksgiving weekend. We'll do 2 hours next time, so even more fun. Hairspray at 8 right now. At 9 o'clock, Top 9 at 9, Back in Time, The Return. Let's get it going with Night Ranger.
How high was your hair? This is Hairspray at 8. Decades on 105 The River.
Total Reach Radio, this is Decades. Skid Row, Hairspray at 8. I remember you, Sebastian. Hates Striper, hates their outfits, hates their music, and he made it all. But he likes the acoustic guitar. Apparently his new album is going to be very different. So, all right, top 10 richest bassists in the world. Okay, this was recently published. Our regionalist coming up, and guess who's in the top 10? Our guy with the big tongue. Firehouse, Sleeping With You.
Well, I don't care what they say. I know this is right because I feel it deep in my heart. They say we all are wild. We should wait for a while. But nothing's gonna keep us apart. No, I don't think we're living in sin. So we can't give up, we can't give in. Because our love is strong and it can't be wrong. When it feels right. So I've been sleeping with you tonight. We'll be together tonight. I don't care if it's wrong or right. I'll be sleeping with you tonight. So let's give it a try. I know we'll get by because our love's enough to see us through. Well, if we take a chance, we can make it last. I know that is the right thing to do. No, I don't think we're living in sin. So we can't give up, we can't give in. Because our love is strong and it can't be wrong. When it feels right. So I'll be sleeping with you tonight. We'll be together tonight. I don't care if it's wrong or right. I'll be sleeping with you tonight. Cause our love is so strong, nothing's gonna keep us apart. Sleeping with you tonight. We'll be together tonight. I don't care if it's wrong or right. I'll be sleeping with you. So I'll be sleeping with you tonight. We'll be together tonight. I don't care if it's wrong or right. I'll be sleeping with you. Sleeping with you tonight. Yeah. Sleeping with you. Sleeping with you
Because you can never use enough hairspray. Hairspray at 8. Decades with Joe E. Kramer on 105 The River.
Louisiana, 'cause I knew my only
from their album Ram It Down. They can always make anything sound their own, right? Judas Priest. Ram It Down was the name of that album in 88. Johnny B. Good, of course. Now, coming up at 9 o'clock, Top 9 at 9, Back in Time. This very week, 1987, we will be exploring that. So you don't want to miss that. That's going to be very cool. Now, a lot of stuff coming up next week, 9 o'clock. Paul Young we talked to. You know, Love of the Common People, Come Back and Stay, Ooh Girl, Every Time You Go Away, all those hits he had in the 80s. Paul Young with us next Saturday. The following week is our Halloween special, and it's going to be very cool. I'll talk about that in the next break. But I talked about top 10 richest bassists in the world. All right? This was published this week. Number 10, Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath, $70 million. Bill Wyman from the Stones, $80 million. John Paul Jones tied with them, $80 million. Flea from the Chili Peppers, $110 million. This is their net worth. Number 6, John Deacon from Queen, $115 million. Adam Clayton from U2, $150 million. Roger Waters, Pink Floyd, $270 million. And tied at number 2 is Sting from The Police, worth $300 million. And our very own Gene Simmons, $300 million. Number 1, I guess we think we all know this by a landslide. The number 1 richest bassist in the world is the one and only Paul McCartney. He has a net worth of $1.2 billion. So he's got about a $700 million lead on Sting and Gene Simmons. So there you go. More decades coming up. Hairspray at 8, of course. We got Extreme. We're going to do some Kiss and a whole lot more. Hairspray at 8 right here. 105 The River, 105 TheRiver.net. Decades with JoeEKramer.com and our new and improved Radio Bold app. Check it out today. We will be right back.
This is Hairspray at 8.
The biggest hits. 105 The River.
The generation that put a hole in the ozone. Hairspray at 8 on Decades.
With the Sam, we got to do one. We got to do another Kiss song. Turn on the night. And of course, Gene Simmons Vaults you can get now. And Mr. Matt Porter, who hosts the Kiss Room, was saying like $50,000 can get you Gene Simmons in your house. So add to that 300 million. Why not? But hey, if you have it, if you have 50 grand or 100 grand, and you could have your favorite artist come to your house. Would you do it? If you had cash. I mean, that's the bottom line. Straight out of Norway. Probably not 50 grand to have the stage dolls come. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Love Cries. This is Hairspray at 8. Decades. Turn it up.
As she drives through the town where she once played around in these streets. Oh, memories always left here. Little note on her bed, just the words that leave it all unsaid. Oh, mama, don't you cry. Hey, papa, don't ask why. Love cries, love burns.
When music was this good, this is Hairspray at 8 on Decades.
Everybody needs a little place to get high. Somewhere to call their own, don't let nobody inside. Every now and then we all need to let go. For some it's a doctor, for me it's rock and roll. For some it's a bottle, for some it's a pill. Some people read the Bible 'cause it's giving them a thrill. Others point the finger if they don't like what they see. If you live in a glass house, don't be throwing rocks at me. We all need a little shelter, just a little helper to get us by. We all need a little shelter, just a little helper. Ooh, and it'll be alright. Check out Mr. Politician in a suit and tie. But when the doors are closed, there ain't nothing he won't try. Meanwhile, Mr. Madison's treating his best friend's wife. Triple everyone gets a record industry. She said she saw the devil on the MTV. To look into the cabinet, it takes more than a key. Just like Jimmy Skeletons and his ministry, we all need a little shelter, just a little helper to get us by. We all need a little shelter, just a little helper. Ooh, and it'll be Some it's the needle, some it's the pill. Some people wear the Bible 'cause it's giving them a thrill. You can spend your money before you get your pay. With a toss of the dice, you can piss it all away. We all need a little shelter, just a little helper to get us by. We all need a little shelter, just a little helper. Ooh, and it'll be Shelter Me, Cinderella, right here on Decades. Tom Kiefer still out promoting his album. He has done a phenomenal job. I mean, some guys make albums every year. Not Tom Kiefer put the album out 4 years ago. 4 years promoting, and there's a new deluxe set coming out. So he just doesn't stop. One of the hardest working guys out there. Hairspray at 8 rolls on. Johnny Crash. Hey kid, Hairspray at 8.
Radio. This is Hairspray at 8. Johnny Crash. Hey Kid, right here on Hairspray at 8. It is Joey Kramer, and we talked about Rocky Glenn during the 7 o'clock hour. You can hear that at the website if you missed it tonight. Decades at joeykramer.com. Shadow Steel was here. We have Hairspray at 8 now as we wrap things up, and Top 9 at 9 back in time coming up after 9 o'clock. October 14th, 1987, 30 years ago. Do you remember the 9 biggest songs on the radio? Now, coming up next week, Paul Young will be with us during the Spotlight. And the following week, we'll have a Halloween show on the 28th. Todd Weaver of Paranormal Sightings and Karen Pryor, Paranormal Investigators at the Poconos, will be here for Halloween. And I just confirmed, this is going way back, 2 months from now. But Johnny Mathis will join us again this Christmas for the 4th Christmas in a row. Johnny Mathis, Mr. Christmas himself, will be joining for our Christmas show, which will be here before you know it, believe me. Top 9 at 9, back in time, coming up next. This is Hairspray at 8, Decades on Total Reach Radio, 105 The River, 104.9, 100.7 FM, 1340 AM around the world at 105theriver.net. Decades with joeykramer.com, and a brand new, well, the new and improved, I should say, Radio Bold app. Don't you go anywhere. This is Decades. Hang on.
It's 9 o'clock at WWRR Scranton Wilkes-Barre.
What's this? You know what this is?
This is the Top 9 at 9 back in time. Decades with Joe E. Kramer on 105 The River.
Yeah, second time is always the charm here on Decades. This is live radio, my friends. 1987, October 14th, 1987, 30 years ago. We're going to count down the 9 biggest songs on the radio. And do you remember when? Of course, 87 was the year that Rocky Glenn here in northeastern Pennsylvania shut its doors forever. The Food and Drug Administration approves anti-AIDS drug for the first time. AZT is also the year that was shortened by 1 second to adjust to the Gregorian calendar. And what did we ever do without disposable contact lenses? They were all invented in 1987. On the radio, number 9, Tiffany, I Think We're Alone Now.
Children behave. That's what they say when we're together. And watch how you play. They don't understand, and so we're running just as fast as we can. Holding on to one another's hand. Trying to get away into the night. And then you put your arms around me and we tumble to the ground. And then you say, I
Hey, this is Tiffany, and you're listening to Decades with Joey Kramer.
This is the Top 9 at 9 Back in Time. Decades with Joe E. Kramer on 105 The River.
Eddie LaVerde, both of them have passed on, but they had the number 8 song back in 1987. Casanova went top 5 eventually. Top 99 Back in Time. Tiffany at number 9. I think we're alone now. LaVerde with Casanova at number 8. How about that? Top song of the whole year, by the way, in 1987 was Faith by George Michael. And I'll tell you by saying it's not the number 1 song this week. The Legend of Zelda was released for the NES. And 1 Ounce of Gold was $486.50. And at number 7 from her movie, Who's That Girl? Song was much better than the movie was, by the way. Causing a Commotion, Madonna. Top 9 at 9, Back in Time. This is number 7.
I got the moves, baby. You got the motion. If we got together, we'd be causing a commotion. I got the moves, baby. You got the motion. If we got together, we'd be causing a commotion. You match when you met me. I know that you will disagree, it's crazy, but opposites attract, you see. And I won't let you get away so easy. The love you save may be your own. Can't fight this feeling that you're tired of being alone. You won't admit it, but you know it's true. It's not a secret how I feel when I stand next to you. I got the moves, baby. You got the motion. If we got together, we'd be causing a commotion. I got the moves, baby. You got the motion. If we got together, we'd be causing a commotion. Someday you'll see my point of view. You can't keep wishing on the stars, baby. What works for me can work for you. You got to make the compromises, baby. Then we can keep our life alive. And when it falls, we won't let it die. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's how you play the game, so get into the groove. I got the moves, baby. You got the motion. If we got together, we'd be causing a commotion. I got the moves, baby. You got the motion. If we got together, we'd be causing a commotion. 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 I hope you find what you're looking for. Is it mine? Walk through that door. We're wasting time. Make up your mind and get into the groove. Then we can keep our love alive. And when it falls, we won't let it die. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's how you play the game, so get into the groove. I hope you find what you're looking for. Is it mine? Walk through that door. We're wasting time. Make up your mind and get into the groove. I got the moves, baby. You got the motion. If we got together, we'd be causing a commotion. I got the moves, baby. You got the motion. If we got together, we'd be causing a commotion. 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 I got the moves, baby. You got the motion. If we got together, we'd be causing a commotion. I got the moves, baby. You got the motion.
It's the Top 9 at 9 with Joe E. Kramer on Decades.
You're not sure what you want to do with your life, but you sure don't want me in it. Yeah, you're sure the life you're living with me can't go on one single minute. And there's a new You can tell the whole world how you're gonna make it. You can follow your heart, what you do when someone breaks it. Who will you run to when it all falls down? Who's gonna pick your world apart for the ground? Who's gonna take away the tears you cry? Who's gonna love you, baby, as good as I? You found a new world and you wanna taste it, but they're working too cold and you better face it. Who will you run to when it all falls down? Who's gonna pick your world apart for the ground? Who's gonna take away the tears you cry? Who's gonna love you, baby, as good as I? Who will you run to when it all falls down? Who's gonna pick your world apart for the ground? Who's gonna take away the tears you cry? Who's gonna love you, baby, as good as
Total Reach Radio, this is the Top 9 at 9. Back in Time, song number 6. Heart, Who You Run To. The sixth biggest song on your radio this very week, October 14th, 1987. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2013. Now the nominees have been released for the 2018 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. See what you think. 9 groups or artists have never been nominated before. So here's the nominees. Bon Jovi, he was nominated in 2011. They were nominated. Sorry. Kate Bush, first time. The Cars, this is their third time. Depeche Mode, their second time. Dire Straits, their first time. Eurythmics, their first time. The Jay Giles Band, it will be their 5th time. Judas Priest, their first time. LL Cool J, his 4th time. MC5, their 3rd time. The Meters, who I've never heard of, that is their 4th time. The Moody Blues, their first time, which is hard to believe the Moody Blues just once. Radiohead, their first time. Rage Against the Machine, their first time. Rufus, featuring Shaka Khan, 2nd time. Nina Simone, first time. Sister Rosetta Tharpe, okay, 2018. Link Ray, 2nd time. And the Zombies, 3rd time for them. You could actually vote if you go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame website. So you can check that out. All right, 1987 in television. And now we all know the ones that were always number one, the big shows that week. The Cosby Show was number one. But do you remember this show?
She's a small wonder, lovely and bright and soft curves. She's a small wonder, a child unlike other girls. She's a miracle, and I grant you, she'll enchant you at first sight. She's a small wonder, and she'll make your heart take flight. La 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 la. She's fantastic, made of plastic, microchips here and there. She's a small wonder.
Small Wonder. Remembers that one. 96 episodes that ran for. And of course, it revolves around a Vicky, voice input child. Dedicated and pronounced Vicky as an android in the form of a 10-year-old girl. And that ran for 96 episodes, believe it or not, 4 seasons. Small Wonder, 1987. Top 9 at 9, back in time. I can tell you, there's a bunch of songs that a lot of them went to number one. In fact, 1, 2, 3 went to number one. Who will it be? Is it Prince? Is it Europe? Is it Michael Jackson? We'll find out next. Top 99 Back in Time rolls on. Hang on.
Back in Time with this week's Top 9 at 9. Decades with Joe E. Kramer on 105 The River.
Your word is mine, won't take you right. Just show your face, broad daylight. I'm telling you on how I feel. Gonna hurt your mind, don't you dare. Jump on, get on me. Alright, I'm giving you on count of 3. Just show your stuff or let it be. I'm telling you, just watch your mouth. I know your game, what you're about. When they say the sky's the limit, and to me this really true. I'm a friend, you have seen nothing. There's a way to, and you have seen nothing. There's a way to, I can do because I'm bad. I'm bad, you know. You know I'm bad. I'm bad, you know it. You know I'm bad. I'm bad, you know. You know. And the whole world has to answer right now just to tell you once again who's bad. The word is out, you're doing wrong. Won't lock you up for too long. No lying eyes, won't tell you right. So listen up, don't make a fight. Your talk is cheap, you're not a man. You're throwing stones at your hands. When they say the sky's the limit, and to me this really do. I'm a friend, you have seen nothing. Just a way so I can do because I'm bad. I'm bad, you know. You know I'm bad. I'm bad, you know it. You know I'm bad. I'm bad, you know it. You know. And the whole world has to answer right now just to tell you once again who's bad. We could change the world tomorrow. This could be a better place. If you don't like what I'm saying, then I won't just slap my face because I'm bad. I'm bad, you know. You know I'm bad. I'm bad, you know it. You know I'm bad. I'm bad, you know it. You know. And the whole world is right there to tell you once again. You know I'm bad. I'm bad, you know. You know I'm bad. I'm bad, you know it. You know it. You know. You know. You know. Come on. And the whole world has to answer right now just to tell you once again. You know I'm smooth. I'm bad. You know it. You know I'm bad. I'm bad, baby. You know. You know. You know it. Come on. And the whole world has to answer right now just to tell you once again. You know I'm bad. I'm bad. You know it. You know I'm bad. You know. You know I'm bad. I'm bad. You know it. You know. And the whole world has to answer right now just to tell you once again who's bad.
Total Reach Radio. It is the Top 99 Back in Time. Do you know how long we waited out in the 80s for that Michael Jackson album to come out, Bad, after Thriller, which seemed like lasted for years, and Bad finally comes out. I Just Can't Stop Loving You and Bad are released, and it was a phenomenon. There's no doubt. Michael Jackson at number 5 will go on to reach number 1 in a few weeks, so don't you worry about that. 1987, as we approach Christmas, Some of the big gifts back then, 30 years ago, Transformers, plush animals, Jenga, Koosh Ball. Remember Koosh Ball? Koosh Ball was huge back in 1987. The Karate Kid figures, they were also big back in 1987 as it was coming right off the second movie. And the Karate Kid figures were huge. I never had a Daniel-san one. I think I had a Mr. Miyagi one. It wasn't fun to play with just Mr. Miyagi, but anyway. And Spud McKenzie, and anything that had its likelihood, his name on it, was big that Christmas. So. Prince was also big, as usual, with Sheena Easton. You Got the Look. Number 4 in the top 9 at 9. Back in time.
You walked in, I woke up. I've never seen a pretty girl look so tough, baby. You got that look. Color you peach and black. Color me taking her back. Crucial. Think I want you. You've got the look. You've got the hook. Sure enough to be cooking my book. Your face is jamming. Your body's heck of slamming. Your love is good. Let's get to ramming. You've got the look. You've got the look. Look here. You got the look. You must have took a whole hour just to make up your face, baby. Clouds and time, ugly lights, everybody's inspected. But you are a natural beauty, unaffected. Did I say an hour? My face is red. I stand corrected. You got the look. Sure enough to be cooking in my book. Your face is jamming. Your body's heck of slamming. Your love is good. Let's get to ramming. You got the look. You got the look. There's no joke at you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the dream we all dream of. Boy versus girl in the World Series of Love. Love it. You walked in, I woke up. I never seen such a pretty girl look so tough, baby. You got that look. Yes, you do. Color you peach and black. Color me taking her back, baby. Crucial. Think I want you. You got the look. You got the look. Sure enough to be cooking in my book. Your face is jamming. Body's heck is slamming. If your love is good, let's get to ramming now. You got the look. You got the look. Here we are, folks. The dream we all dream of. You got the look.
This is the top 9 at 9 Back in Time.
The biggest hits, 105 The River.
When lights go down, I see no reason
Top 9 at 9, Back in Time. Number 3, Europe.
When lights go down.
And Carrie, back when hair metal ruled the world, no doubt about it. This is the Top 9 at 9, Back in Time, right here on Decades.
It's the Top 9 at 9 with Joe E. Kramer on Decades.
Didn't I say it ruled the world? Because the number 2 song, Whitesnake, Here I Go Again. Top 9 at 9, Back in Time, October 14th, 87.
I don't know where I'm going, but I sure know where I've been. Hanging on the promises and songs of yesterday, and I've made up my mind. I ain't wasting no more time. Here I go again. Here I go again. Though I keep searching for an answer, I never seem to find what I'm looking for. Lord, I pray you give me strength to carry on, 'cause I know it means to walk along the lonely street of dreams. And here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter, I was born to walk along, and I've made up my mind. I ain't wasting no more time. I'm just another heart in need of rescue, waiting on love's sweet charity. And I'm gonna hold on for the rest of my days, 'cause I know what it means to walk along the lonely street of dreams. And here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter, I was born to walk along, and I made up my mind. I ain't wasting no more time, but here I go again. Here I go again. Here I go again. Here I go. Cause I know what it means to walk along the lonely street of dreams. And here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter, I was born to walk along, and I made up my mind. I ain't wasting no more time. And here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter, I was born to walk along, 'cause I know what it means to walk along the lonely street of dreams. And here I go again on my own.
Total Reach Radio, this is Decades, Top 9 at 9, Back in Time. Remember what it was like turning the radio on and hearing Carrie by Europe, followed by Whitesnake, Here I Go Again. That was 1987, 30 years ago. The Top 9 at 9, Back in Time. Number 2, Here I Go Again by Whitesnake. If you missed it, number 9, Tiffany, I Think We're Alone Now, followed by Casanova, Levert. Number 7, Causing a Commotion by Madonna. 6, Who You Run To by Heart. 5, Bad by Michael Jackson. 4, You Got the Look by Prince. 3, Carrie by Europe. And 2, Here I Go Again by Whitesnake. It was also the year of some great movies. 3 Men in the Mall and 3 Men and a Baby wasn't one of them, but Fatal Attraction, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Good Morning Vietnam, The Untouchables, Lethal Weapon, The Last Emperor, Dirty Dancing, RoboCop, one of my guilty pleasures, all came out in 1987. And talking about sports in 87, the Twins were the World Series champions. The Giants won the Super Bowl, which we know that's not going to happen. The Lakers were the NBA champs, ditto on that. Edmonton Oilers won the Stanley Cup. And who else? And the national champions in college football was Miami. So there you go. Which brings us up to the number 1 song on the radio. I Wonder If I Take You Home. Head to Toe. All these songs were big hits. Head to Toe was the number 1. All Cried Out was the number 1. And this one was the number 1. Talking about Lisa and Colt Jam. Number 1, Lost in Emotion. Top 9 at 9, Back in Time.
Hey, this is Lisa, and you're listening to Decades with Joey Kramer. Kick it.
Hit the beat now. Some guys will promise you a marriage made in heaven, but I'm gonna stick to my guns. Like waiting for their love that I might be getting. My dreams have yet begun. Oh baby, am I a fool 'cause I don't know just how you feel? And this love for you, I can't conceal. I'm lost in emotion, telling you things you really should know. Baby, I'm lost in emotion. Am I a fool? At least my friends think so. Que sera, baby, whatever will be. Que sera, between you and me. Just how true are the rumors I am hearing about this crush you have on me? Baby, I'm blind 'cause I just don't see it, but I wanna believe what they see. I find myself telling you things I don't even tell my best friend. I keep showing emotions not knowing just where it all stems from. From time to time I wonder where I am in your heart. And even though I don't live there yet, I'm afraid it will be cold and dark. I'm lost in emotion, telling you things you really should know. Baby, I'm lost in emotion. Am I a fool? At least my friends think so. Que sera, baby, whatever will be. Que sera, between you and me. I hope you know. Baby, am I a fool 'cause I don't
Total Reach Radio. This is Decades, the Top 9 at 9, back in time. October 14th, 1987. Lisa, Cold Jam, Full Force, and Bow-Legged Lou. Yes, Bow-Legged Lou. Very important part of Lisa and Cold Jam. Had the number one song 30 years ago. Unreal, it's been that long. Now, next Saturday night, we will have another Decades Artist Spotlight. Paul Young will be talking with us. Great guy. Big hits in the 80s. Come back and stay. Live, love of the common people. Every time you go away, tear that playhouse down. Oh, girl. The list goes on and on. Paul Young next Saturday night on the show. We don't want to miss that. The following week, we're going to have Todd Weaver and Kieran Pryor here for our Halloween show. The Paranormal Sightings, and from Paranormal Sightings, obviously, Todd Weaver, and Kieran Pryor from Paranormal Investigators at Poconos. Can't wait. Halloween show coming up in 2 weeks, and then we're just going to be heading right towards Christmas. So there's no stopping us, right? We got more Decades coming up. Don't you go anywhere. Starship, Blessed Union of Souls, Iggy Pop, Soul Asylum. Their hit, one of their big hits before Runaway Train, which was one of my favorites from Grave Dancers Union. All straight ahead. This is Decades on Total Reach Radio 105 The River, 104.9 and 100.7 FM, 1340 AM around the world at 105theriver.net. Decades with JoeyKramer.com. And the new and improved Radio Bold app. Hang on.
This is the sound of the 80s generation on WWRR Scranton Wilkes-Barre.
Hi, this is John Waite.
Hey, this is Rachel Ball from Skid Row.
Aloha, this is Moana from the Jets.
And you're listening to Decades.
And you're listening to Decades.
And you're listening to Decades with Joey Kramer.
Decades with Joe E. Kramer on 105 The River.
All right, here we go. Hour number 4 lined up for you. Every single week we do it on a Saturday night live, of course. The only live show on a Saturday night. That's how we roll right here. Don't forget, next Saturday, Paul Young in the Spotlight. And then we have our Halloween show coming up the following week. You do not want to miss it. Starship, the special Decades remix here. We built this city.
This is Mickey Thomas of the Starship, and you are listening to Decades with Joey Kramer.
Say you don't know me, I recognize my face. Say you don't care who goes to that kind of place. Knee deep in the hoopla, shaking in your fight. Too many runaways eating up the night. My Sony plays the bumper. Listen to the radio. Don't you remember? We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. We built this city. We built this city on rock.
on air, online, and on your mobile device. Decades is everywhere, everywhere, everywhere.
Walk blindly to the light and reach out for his hand. Don't ask any questions and don't try to understand. Open up your mind and then open up your heart, and you will see that you and me are very far apart. 'Cause I believe that love is the answer. I believe love will find a way. Violence is spread worldwide and there's families on the street. We sell drugs to children now. Oh, why can't we just see that all we do is eliminate our future with the things we do today? Money is our incentive now, so that makes it okay. But I believe that love is the answer. I believe love will find a way. I believe that love is the answer. I believe love will find a way. I'm seeing Lisa now for a little over a year. She says she'd never been so happy, but Lisa lives in fear that one day Daddy's gonna find out she's in love with a nigga from the streets. Oh, how he would lose it then, but she's still here with me, 'cause she believes in love will see it through. One day you'll understand. He'll see me as a person and not just a black man. 'Cause I believe that love is the answer. I believe that love will find a way. I believe that love is the answer. I believe love will find a way. 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 Love will find a way.
Total Reach Radio. This is Decades. One of my favorites from the 90s. The Blessed Union of Souls. Blessed with an I. I believe. Right here on Decades.
This is Retro Radio.
Retro Radio.
Decades on 105 The River.
As we roll 5 full hours of Retro Radio every single Saturday night. No, a lot of the guys that I talk to at work, we can't agree on a lot of stuff, but we all agree we love the movie The Last Dragon, and that's what this song is from. It's The Barge, Rhythm of the Night. That's all you gotta say. This is Decades, Total Reach Radio.
all of the madness has got you going crazy. It's time to get out, step out into the street where all of the action is right there at your feet. Well, I know a place where we can dance the whole night away underneath the electric stars. Just come with me and we can shake the blues right away. You'll be doing fine once the music starts. Oh, to the beat of the rhythm of the night, dance until the morning light. Forget about the words on your mind. You can leave them all behind. To the beat of the rhythm of the night. Oh, the rhythm of the night. Oh, Look out on the street now, the party's just beginning. The music's playing, a celebration starting under the street lights. The scene is being set, a night for romance, a night you won't forget. So come join the fun, this ain't no time to be staying home. Ooh, there's too much going on. Oh, tonight is gonna be a night like you never know. We're gonna have a good time the whole night long. Oh, to the beat of the rhythm of the night, dance until the morning light. Forget about the words on your mind. You can leave them all behind. To the beat of the rhythm of the night. Oh, the rhythm of the night. Oh. Come join the fun, this ain't no time to be staying on. Ooh, there's too much going on. Oh, tonight is gonna be a night like you never know. We're gonna have a good time the whole night long. To the beat of the rhythm of the night, dance until the morning light. Forget about the worries on your mind. You can leave them all behind. Dance until the morning light. Oh, to the beat of the rhythm of the night. Oh, forget about the worries on your mind. To the beat of the rhythm of the night. Forget about the worries on your mind. To the beat of the rhythm of the night. Oh, 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 oh. Forget about the worries on your mind. You can leave them all behind. To the rhythm of the night. Dance until the morning light. Forget about the worries on your mind. You can leave them all behind. To the rhythm of the night. Oh, 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 oh. Forget about the worries on your mind. To the beat of the rhythm of the night. Dance until the morning light. Forget about the worries on your mind. You can leave them all
Decades with Joe E. Kramer sounds like this.
I'm a real wild one. Wild one. Wild one. Wild one.
of punk as he is known. Iggy Pop. Do you believe Iggy Pop is 70 years old? It doesn't seem possible. He's still cool, 70 years old. And his band, The Stooges, nominated to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2010. I don't know if you were listening. Of course you were listening before, but just in case. The nominees are out this year. You could go to rockhall.com and check out the nominees and vote for them. They're actually letting the public vote a little bit here. It doesn't count for much, but anyway. Bon Jovi, Kate Bush, The Cars, Depeche Mode, Dire Straits, The Eurythmics, The Jay Giles Band, Judas Priest, LL Cool J, MC5, The Meters, The Moody Blues, Radiohead, Rage Against the Machine, Rufus featuring Shaka Khan, Nina Simone, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Link Ray, and The Zombies. And there's only about 3 on here that I don't really familiar with. I'm not familiar with Link Ray. I've heard of Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Everybody knows Nina Simone. But there's somebody else. I wasn't. The Meters. I have to look them up, The Meters, because I'm not familiar with The Meters. But, hey, it's all an age thing here. RockandRollHallOfFame.com. It's actually rockhall.com, and you can vote for your favorites. It's about time the Cars are being nominated. Of course, they've been nominated 3 years in a row now, and they haven't got in. And Depeche Mode, another one. I don't know what their criteria is. If they say it's not for selling records, it's supposed to be like on influence and everything else. I don't know exactly what the. You don't hear a lot of people getting up there and saying my influence was Link Ray. So I have to look him up. So. All right, more decades coming up. Don't you go anywhere. We have Tapao in there, Soul Asylum, and Naughty by Nature. Straight ahead, right here. It's Decades. Hang on.
Let's have some more music. Turn it up louder.
Now, here's a very popular number.
This is a guaranteed gold record.
Oh, Maestro, don't forget your cue now.
Now, back to the music. This is Decades with Joe E. Kramer.
Hi, everybody. This is Carol Decker from Tapao, and you're listening to me on Decades with Joey Kramer.
Can you see something in your
It's Joe E. Kramer with Decades.
The biggest hits. 105 The River.
I always kind of like this band. Runaway Train, everybody knows, and Misery, but this was before Runaway Train. Black Gold, Soul Asylum. This is Decades.
On a playground, trying to push each other down. See the crowd gather round. Nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd. Black gold in a white flag. Won't you fill up the tank? Let's go for a ride. I don't care about no wheelchair. I got so much left to do. Time, never learn, never mind. That side's yours, this side's mine. Brother, you ain't my kind. You're a black soldier, white fight. Won't you fill up the tank? Let's go for a ride. Sure like to feel some pride, but this place just makes me feel sad inside. Mother, do you know where your kids are tonight? Off the streets, gives them something to do, something to eat. This spot was a playground. This flat land used to be a town. Black gold in a white flag. Won't you fill up the tank? Let's go for a ride. Sure like to feel some pride, but this place just makes me feel sad inside. Black gold in a white flag. Won't you fill up the tank? Let's go for a ride. I don't care about no wheelchair. I got so much left to do with my life.
Crack open a new Coke and slip on those leg warmers. This is Decades on Total Reach Radio.
Army with harmony. Dave, drop a load on 'em. Jumping, shouting, saying it. Oh, it's for other P, it's for people scratch a temple. The last P, well, that's not
Decades with Joe E. Kramer. Turn it up and rip the knob off. This is 105 The River.
We'll be together again. I've been waiting for a long time. We're gonna be together again. I'll be connected to the right line. We'll be together. Nobody ain't never gonna disconnect us. Forever separate us. Or say to us, you got to stop. Stand there where you are. Before you go too far, before you make a fool out of love. Stop. Don't jump before you look. Get hung up on a hook before you make a fool out of love. We'll be together again. I've been waiting for a long time. We're gonna be together again. I'll be connected to the right line. We'll be together. Nobody ain't never gonna disconnect us. Forever separate us. Or say to us, you got to stop. Stand there where you are. Before you go too far. Before you make a fool out of love. Stop. Don't jump before you look. Get hung upon a hook before you make a fool out of love. We'll be together. Nobody ain't never gonna disconnect us. Forever separate us. Or say to us, you got to stop. Stand there where you are. Before you go too far. Before you make a fool out of love. Stop. Don't jump before you look. Get hung upon a hook before you make a fool out of love. Stop. Stand there where you are. Before you go too far. Before you make a fool out of love. Stop.
Reach Radio, this is Decades. Joe E. Kramer, Erasure, one of my favorites in the 1980s. Stop. Still making music, by the way. They've sold nearly 100 million albums worldwide, believe it or not. Just because they're not big here in the United States doesn't always mean anything. The Hooters have found a lot of success overseas lately, but eventually we're going to see them. We just got to want them really hard, says Eric Brazilian. This is from their very first album, Amore, and then Put on Nervous Night. The Hooters, hanging on a heartbeat on Decades.
Hanging on a heartbeat. Hanging on a heartbeat. Hanging on a heartbeat. You know you can't waste time when you're hanging on a heartbeat. You change your mind like the weather. You promise sunshine, but it looks like rain. A simple no would be better, but you just keep me hanging on again. Hanging
Can't you see how hard I've tried? Hanging on a heartbeat. Can't you see the fire in my eyes? Hanging on a heartbeat. It's a hot seat. You better pick it up and leave it behind. 'Cause you can't waste time when you're hanging on a heartbeat.
Total Reach Radio, this is Decades. How about that? The Hooters. Just wrapped up their Give the Music Back tour in Germany. They did like 40 dates in Germany. The Hooters, you can't explain it. They are extremely popular overseas. They do some United States stuff. They were in Ocean City this summer, always in Philadelphia, and they're still making some great music. And they just keep on going. But they just wrapped up that tour. I hear that they're going to be working on some new stuff, so we shall see what will happen. But I had Eric Bazillion on the show about 4 years ago, and he said, if you want to see us here, we'll be here, but the want's got to be. In Germany, they performed for 40,000 people just about a week ago on their last show. So they are huge over there. All right, don't forget, next week, Mr. Paul Young will be with us in a Decades Artist Spotlight. All of his big hits from the 1980s. We'll talk to Paul Young next Saturday night. Just confirmed Johnny Mathis will be with us. You're saying, oh, Johnny Mathis. Yes, I like Johnny Mathis, and he is Mr. Christmas, and he will be here for the 4th year in a row. It's not Christmas without Johnny Mathis. It just isn't. I grew up on it, and what a great guy. 82 years old. And I'm actually going to go see him in concert in about 2 weeks. So my first Johnny Mathis concert. But he will be with us, our Christmas show, which I think our Christmas show falls really late this year, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, Saturday, December 23rd. So it'll be very festive for our Christmas show. One more hour to go. Don't you go anywhere. This is Decades. We got the Cars coming up, Huey Lewis and the News, and more right here. Total Reach Radio, 105 The River, 104.9 and 100.7 FM, 1340 AM around the world at 105theriver.net. Decades with JoeEKramer.com and the Radio Bold app for Decades coming right at you. Hang on.
This is the sound of the 80s generation on WWRR Scranton Wilkes-Barre.
Hey there, this is John Oates. Hi, this is Jay King from Club Nouveau.
Lean on me, we are not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on.
Hey, this is Jeff Pilson from Foreigner. You are listening to Decades with Joey Kramer. And you're listening to Decades with Joey Kramer. And you're listening to my good pal Joe E. Kramer on Decades.
Decades with Joe E. Kramer. Only on 105 The River.
All right, here we go. Hour number 5 tonight, which means it's the last hour of this week's show. We do it every single Saturday night live inside Mohegan Sun Pocono right here in northeastern Pennsylvania and streamed around the world at 105theriver.net and Decades with JoeEKramer.com. So never fear. And, of course, you can always hear the shows at Decades with JoeEKramer.com. So very cool. Still waiting for the new Culture Club album. They're on tour again, going to Australia, coming back to America, and hopefully we'll hear something soon. That's all I could say. I think there's an import. Church of the Poison Mind, Culture Club on Decades.
There's love in your eyes. You used to make my life so sweet. Step out like a Gotham child, so your eyes across the street. Who would be the fool to take you to be more than just kind?
on air, online, and on your mobile device. Decades is everywhere. Everywhere. Everywhere.
I've been alone with you inside my mind, and in my dreams I've kissed your lips 1,000 times. I sometimes see you pass outside my door. Hello, is it me you're looking for? I can see it in your eyes, I can see it in your smile. You're all I've ever wanted, and my arms are open wide. 'Cause you know just what to say, and you know just what to do, and I want to tell you so much. I love you. I long to see the sunlight in your hair and tell you time and time again how much I care. Sometimes I feel my heart will overflow. Hello, I've just got to let you know, 'cause I wonder where you are, and I wonder what you do. Are you somewhere feeling lonely, or is someone loving you? Tell me how to win your heart, for I haven't got a clue. But let me start by saying I love you. Are you somewhere feeling lonely? Someone loves you. Tell me how to win your heart, for I haven't got a clue. But let me start by saying I love you.
Total Reach Radio, this is Decades. Who doesn't like Lionel Richie? You got to give him credit for being on tour with Mariah Carey. That can't be an easy thing, right? Hello, right here on Decades. It's Joey Kramer. Always a big fan of the Psychedelic Furs. Loved them through the 80s, the 90s. They're back together. They're on their singles tour. Just wish they'd do a new album. From 87, Heartbreak Beat on Decades.
Heartbreak beat, yeah, all night long. And nobody don't dance on the edge of the dark. We've got the radio on. don't stop. We talk so tough. And there's a perfect kiss somewhere out in the dark, but a kiss ain't enough. And the world don't stop every time that you call. And the world don't stop every time that you fall. There's a heartbreak beat playing all night long down on my street, and it feels like love. Got the radio on, and it's all that we need. There's a heartbreak beat, and it feels like love. There's a heartbreak beat, and it feels like love. All night long, and nobody don't dance on the edge of the dark. We've got the radio on, and it feels like love, but it don't mean a lot. And it feels like love, and it's all that we've got. There's a heartbreak beat playing all night long down on my street, and it feels like love. Got the radio on, and it's all that we need. There's a heartbreak beat, and it feels like love. There's a heartbreak beat, and it feels like love. There's a heartbreak beat. I'm a heartbreak beat. I'm a heartbreak beat.
Decades with Joe E. Kramer. Turn it up. Decades on 105 The River.
I'm too sexy for my love, too sexy for my love. Love's going to leave me. So sexy it hurts, and I'm too sexy for Milan, too sexy for Milan, New York and Japan. I'm too sexy for your party, too sexy for your party. The way I'm disco dancing, I'm a model, you know what I mean. And I do my little turn on the catwalk, yeah, on the catwalk, on the catwalk, yeah, I do my little turn by far. And I'm too sexy for my hat, too sexy for my hat. What you think about that? I'm a model, you know what I mean. And I do my little turn on the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk, on the catwalk. Yeah, I shake my little tush on the catwalk. My little turn on the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk. Yeah, I shake my little tush on the catwalk. I'm too sexy for my cat. Too sexy for my cat. Poor pussy. Poor pussy cat. I'm too sexy for my love.
Look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. Look what you made me do.
Song.
Yeah, you gotta love that. Right said Fred, I'm too sexy. Look what you made me do is Taylor Swift, of course. Like that Taylor Swift impersonation, pretty cool. That's where she got it. Right said Fred, Richard and Fred Parabrass, and you can actually go on YouTube or on the Right Said Fred Facebook page, and they'll give you a link. They recorded a version with the Taylor Swift thing in there. So and they got permission, so it wasn't done. She actually gave them permission and a big fat check to use the music, basically. She basically copied it, and she admitted it, and she paid them, so everything's cool in Right Said Fredland. That's the way it works. That's the way it should work, right? All right, we got more decades coming up as we wind things down for another Saturday night. Got Young MC in there. We're going to try to get some Violent Femmes on. Got a very cool remake by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. If you love Mary Tyler Moore, you'll love this one. It's from 1998. I'm going to play it coming up right here. Decades on Total Reach Radio, 105 The River, 104.9 and 100.7 FM, 1340 AM around the world at 105theriver.net. Decades with JoeEKramer.com and the Radio Bold app, new and improved, coming right back at you. Hang on.
Well, let's do this, puppy.
Commercials off.
Oh, great.
Well, I sure like the way you broke your ass to let me know about it.
Retro Radio on.
That concludes our sideshow.
Back to Decades with Joe E. Kramer on 105 The River.
This here's a jam for all the fellas. Try to do what those ladies tell us. Get shot down cause you're overzealous. Play hard to get females, get jealous. Okay, smarty, go to a party. Girls are scantily clad and showing body. A chick walks by, you wish you could sex her, but you're standing on the wall like you was Poindexter. Next day's function, high class luncheon. Food is served and you're stone cold munching. Music comes on, people start to dance, but then you ate so much you nearly split your pants. A girl starts walking, guys start gawking. Sits down next to you and starts talking. Says she wanna dance cause she likes the groove. So come on, fatso, and just bust the move. Just bust the move. You're on a mission and you're wishing someone could cure your lonely condition. Looking for love in all the wrong places. No fine girls, just ugly faces. From frustration, first inclination is to become a monk and leave the situation. But every dark tunnel has a light of hope, so don't hang yourself with a celibate rope. New movie showing, so you're going. Could care less about the five you're blowing. Theater gets dark just to start the show. Then you spot a fine woman sitting in your row. She's dressed in yellow. She says hello. Come sit next to me, you fine fellow. You run over there without a second to lose. And what comes next? Hey, bust the move. Just bust the move. In the city, ladies look pretty. Guys tell jokes so they can seem witty. Tell a funny joke just to get some play. Then you try to make a move and she says no way. Girls are faking, goodness saking. They want a man who brings home the bacon. Got no money and you got no car, then you got no woman. And there you are. Some girls are sadistic, materialistic. Looking for a man makes system opportunistic. The lion on the beach perpetrating a tan so that a brother with the money can be their man. So on the beach you're strolling, real high rolling. Everything you have is yours and not stolen. A girl runs up with something to prove, so don't just stand there, bust the move. Just bust the move. Break it down for me, fellas. Has a brother Larry. In 5 days from now, he's gonna marry. He's hoping you can make it there if you can, cause in the ceremony, you'll be the best man. You say neato, check your libido, and roll to the church in your new tuxedo. The bride walks down just to start the wedding, and there's one more girl you won't be getting. So you start thinking, then you start flicking. A bridesmaid looks and thinks that you're winking. She thinks you're kinda cute, so she winks back, and now you're feeling really firm, cause the girl is stacked. Reception's jumping, bass is pumping. Look at the girl and your heart starts thumping. Says she wanna dance to a different groove. Now you know what to do, G, bust the move. Just bust the move. Move it, boy.
This is Retro Radio.
Retro Radio.
Decades on 105 The River.
As we roll through 5 full hours of Retro Radio, there is no other show on the planet like this one. It happens every Saturday night. Thanks for tuning in.
This is Mike Skill from the Romantics, and you're listening to Joe E. Kramer on Decades.
Something about you makes me wanna keep on loving you. When I'm without you, I feel I need you back in my arms. I get a sensation. I feel whenever I'm around you. You're my inspiration, and I'm so glad I found you. One in a million, baby, you're the one. One
blasting out the hits. The Master Blaster. This is Decades with Joe E. Kramer.
When I'm out walking, I strut my stuff, and I'm so strung out. I'm high as a kite, I just might stop to check you out. Let me go on, like I blister in the sun. Let me go on. Big hands, I know you're the one. Body and beats, I stain my sheets, I don't even know why. My girlfriend, she's at the end, she is starting to cry. Let me go on, like I blister in the sun. Let me go on. Big hands, I know you're the one. When I'm out walking, I strut my stuff, and I'm so strung out. I'm high as a kite, I just might stop to check you out. When I'm out walking, I strut my stuff, and I'm so strung out. And I'm high as a kite, I just might stop to check you out. Body and beats, I stain my sheets, I don't even know why. My girlfriend, she's at the end, she is starting to cry. When I'm walking, stop, and I'm so strung out. I'm high as a kite, I just might stop to check you out. Let me go on, like I blister in the sun. Let me go on. Big hands, I know you're the one.
It's Joe E. Kramer with Decades.
The biggest hits. 105 The River.
Hi, this is Chesney Hawkes here, and you're listening to Decades with Joey Kramer.
I'm the one and only.
Call me by my name. Call me by my number. Put
turn it on and turn it up. This is Decades with Joe E. Kramer.
All right, getting ready to wrap things up for another Saturday night. But hey, I was watching Girls Just Want to Have Fun this week, yes, while I was recovering over the last 2 weeks. Dancing in Heaven. It's the Orbital Bebop Q-Feel on Decades.
Decades with Joe E. Kramer sounds like this.
You can turn the world on with a smile. You can take a nothing day and suddenly make it all seem worthwhile. When it's a girl and you should know it. Each glance and every little movement you show it. Love is all around, don't need to fake it. You can never down, why don't you take it? You're gonna make it after all. How will you make it on your own? This world is awfully big, and girl, this time you're all alone. When it's time to start living, it's time to let someone else do some giving. Love is all around, no need to fake it. You can understand, why don't you take it? You're gonna make it after all. You're gonna make it after all. You're the one most likely to succeed. Just be sure to keep your head, 'cause girl, you know that's all you need. Now everyone around you calls you. Don't give up, the world is waiting for you. Love is all around, no need to waste it. You can have the time, why don't you take it? You're gonna make it after all. You can turn the world on with a smile. Can suddenly make it all seem worthwhile. When it's you, girl, and you should know it. With these plans and every mental movement you show it. Love is all around, no need to waste it. You can have the time, why don't you take it? You're gonna make it after all.
Total Reach Radio, this is Decades. That is Joan Jett. And that was, it was from a soundtrack in the 90s. It's slipping my, I want to say Dazed and Confused, but I know that wasn't it. I've got to look that one up. Love Is All Around. Of course, that's the theme song to the Mary Tyler Moore Show, originally done by Sonny Curtis. And although everybody knows it, it was never a hit. It was released in 1970, never a hit. Paul Williams was the writer of it. How can't you like that song? Love Is All Around from Mary Tyler Moore. Right here on Decades, Joan Jett, 1998. I don't even know why I came upon that this week. Somewhere on YouTube. I was watching something and I saw that and I thought it was cool. All right, got to thank Shadow Steel for stopping by tonight. Talk a little bit about Rocky Glen Park. Always fun when he comes. He'll be back again on Thanksgiving weekend. That'll be November 25th. And we're going to do 2 hours with Shadow that week by popular demand. Next Saturday night, Paul Young will be here in the Decades Artist Spotlight. We'll talk to Paul. The following week, the Halloween show. Todd Weaver from Paranormal Sightings and Kieran Pryor from the Paranormal Investigators of the Poconos will be joining us on the Halloween Spectacular. We call it the Decades of the Dead, so we'll do that. And a whole lot more. I told you Johnny Mathis is going to join us at Christmas. The rest of the year is going to be a lot of stuff coming up. Make it a great week. You can always catch parts of the show online, decadeswithjoeykramer.com. I will talk to you next Saturday night. This is Decades on Total Reach Radio, 105 The River, 104.9 and 100.7 FM, 1340 AM and around the world at 105theriver.net. Decades with joeykramer.com and a new improved Radio Bold app for your iPhone and Android device. I will talk to you next Saturday.